Yeah. Okay. Let's start this rolling. I want to discuss something today. It's a part of the siddur. It's in the sources that you have, the new sources that I want to discuss a piece of the siddur, the machzor. We say in the Shemona Esrei, we all say before we finish, when in the brach of Ata Kadosh, we say a tefillah, which is that we know this is called Tkiyas Sedabei Rav. The Yerushalmi brings this. This is Miyasoidai of the yeshiva of the Amoyer Rav. And we say V'chein tein pachtacha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha. We all say V'chein, V'chein, V'chein. The Avudraham already points out that we all have these V'cheins. It's connected the idea of V'chein Ovay el Amelech Shaloi Kedas. I don't even know whether I could even say this. In other words, just like Esther says, she's resigned to say this. She understands she has no words to the king, and she's walking in there, and unless he sends out the Sharvit Azov, she goes flying. And this is when you say this v'chein, I want you to understand. We say v'chein tzadikim. It's so funny because the v'chein means hesitance. I'm not sure I can say this. And then you want to sing it tzadikim yirvi yismachu bravo, but the v'chein is definitely not something which is kulei simcha. That's an avudrahom in the name of the Rosh. I think the Tur even brings it down. It's also a rekeach v'chein. Okay, but here let's talk about the first v'chein. V'chein, tein pardacha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha. Place your fear on all that you have created or you have made. Let's define fear. I define fear with a Rambam that we discussed in the past. I'm going to say it Baal Peh. The Rambam in Hilchos Avel in Perik Yud Gimel, Halacha Yud Beis, describes that the Avel has certain halachas which are inherently what an Avel is. And what are they? Pachad, Daiga, and Pishpush B'maisov v'Yachzer B'tshuva. Just like Kippur's as man tshuva, contrary bein yoyne only, not Rambam. Contrary bein yoyne is a specific mitzvah to do tshuva on Yom Kippur, and if you don't do tshuva on Yom Kippur or preceding Yom Kippur, you're mavatla mitzvah. This is not found in Rambam, but this Rabbeinu Yoyne. Well, according to Rambam, does mention the idea of a mitzvah to do it on Yom Kippur, but anybody that knows the source of the Rambam, it's already Medrash quoted in Or Zarua. It means the word mitzvah by Rambam does not have to mean imperative. It can also mean value. We've discussed this in the past. And here it's Mefurish. The Lashon is roy la adam. Roy la adam. When he says mitzvah, it means roy la adam. It's a value. That's the Mefurish thing. The mucker of the Rambam is that Medrash. The Zerua brings it down. So there is no mitzvah of doing tshuva specifically on Yom Kippur, as we discussed in the past. According to the Rambam, there's no mitzvah as a religious imperative to do tshuva at all. Rather, it's a value which is the basic basis of our religion, and that is to the authority of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if anytime you sin, you're basically being a Perik Oil Malchus Shamayim. So obviously, you have to go back and accept Malchus Shamayim. That's a davar pasha. These are things we discussed in the past. But he says over there, what does an Avil have to do? Pachad, Daiga, and Pishpush B'maisa v'Yachzer B'tshuva. You need to tell this in the shuls. And then it says, what does this mean? What is the pachad? So he describes the pachad, the kol shalosh yamim harishonim yiras atzma kilu cherev munachos loy al tzavaroy. As if the sword is lying there on your neck. On could be on, or it could be next to, like the pasuk al hayam. Choinim al hayam doesn't mean that you were they were parked on the ocean. It means next to the ocean. Kimavur barashi sham. So al tzavore, that could be either on your neck or right next to your neck, and that's called pachad. Then what's called daiga. Daiga is afterwards, where it says that mishloi shivat shiva munachas bekeren zavis. At that time, you have daiga. That daiga, you are no more debilitated, and you can start doing introspection, ultimately doing tshuva. This is what he writes. The Rambam calls zelachin atzmo v'yachzor. Yachzor means he will revert back to the original way he's supposed to be, as we discussed in the past. That's what tshuva is. V'yeor mishnato, and he will awaken from his slumber, which is reminiscent of the Rambam that we learned together. Also in Hilchos Tshuva, we will bring it again. The idea of tshuva being uri yishenim mishinascha, wake up for your slumber, stop taking anything for granted, and realize why you were created and what for. So it seems to be that the idea of an avelus is a dimechayev of pachad, daiga, and pishpush b'maisav. This will bring tshuva. Obviously, so we look at it carefully. When we pray for pachad, what does that mean? Well, you think about the idea of the sword being on your neck or right next to your neck. What is the feeling you have at that stage? And that's what you're praying to God. God, make me feel an intense sense of mortality. You are praying for something which is very irksome. You're praying for an intense sense of mortality. And it gets worse. See, that's pachad. Which includes you. Look at the Rishonim. It doesn't mean somebody not you. It includes me. God, I want you to induce me into a sense of terrible fright. The fright which makes me feel I'm about to go under. Now, what is Ema versus Pachad? If Pachad is a fright which can be debilitating, Ema is a sense of terror. Michadorim Ema. B'chut shikla cherev u'michadorim Ema. What is that? You are literally praying, I need a sense of terror. So if the sword is next to your neck, but it doesn't seem to be in the motion of cutting your neck, the Ema is what you feel when the bullet is coming towards you. You are totally frozen. And that's what you're asking for. Now, why in God's earth would you want that? And it seems to be that only after you say there will be pachad and there will be Ema, then the third stage is v'yira'ucha kol ha'ma'asim, then we will finally attain yira. It goes stages. It goes pachad, Ema, gradually going up to a peak, and then you can plateau it with yira, a sense of awe. It seems to be that we can't start with awe, but we are praying for literally an age of terror. Reminds me of the French Revolution, where you didn't know if your neck was going to be on your head or it's going to be in the basket in the Place de Bastille with the guillotine. And that's what you're praying for. Does anybody think that and realize what they're saying? And then the tefillah continues, only after we will have pachad and ultimately ema, which can plateau with yira, then finally we will actually be able to annul ourselves and subjugate ourselves totally by prostrating our posture in front of God's presence. Not just putting your head down, as one would think. Literally, bittul hayesh, finally we're able to mishtachave. Not mishtachave like a part of a ceremony found in the shul on Yom Kippur or Aleinu. No. Ishtachvoya kipshutai. Ishtachvoya means what? For example, what is the ishtachvoya? V'nechven ishtachve v'nashuva eleichem. Avram Avinu said, ishtachvoya. What was the ishtachvoya there? Does it say anywhere they were mishtachave? If you remember your chumash, well, we have as follows. We have as v'akoyed Yitzchak benoi. And Akedah of Yitzchak means he was basically tied. They tied his hands and his feet together. Okud yad v'regel. That's what Akeda is. Akeda doesn't mean the sacrifice, the uplifting. This is whoever makes these mistakes. I don't know where they got it from. La code is okud yad v'regel. It means to say you particularly like you take with a cow, a calf, for branding. What you do is you tie together the four legs. Okud yad v'regel. He tied together his hands and his feet. That's what the code means. Quite an interesting position. Okay, what was he? And this is the ishtachvoya that we're talking about. Where's the ishtach? Is there anywhere that they prostrated themselves physically? No. There's a famous vort of the son-in-law of the Baal Hashem Tov. Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov had a son-in-law called Yechiel the German. He came from Germany. His name was Rabbi Yechiel. I don't know if he had the family names. He was called in Yiddish. They called him Rabbi Yechiel the Deutsch from Deutschland. So I remember seeing once a vort in his name, which really impressed me. It says, "We pray v'chol koma lefanecha tishtachaveh," and all erect postures will prostrate themselves. So he says the real idea of ishtachvoya is not throwing your body on the floor, but actually when you're ramrod straight, but your whole essence is prostrated in front of God. You have annulled the sense of self. You've totally accepted the will of God with no questions asked. There's no you there. There's you as being nothing more than an Eved Hashem. That's ishtachvoya. So for Avraham Avinu, the sacrifice of any sense of self, of giving up the future of his monotheistic revolution, realizing that here I have a 36-year-old son, and he's literally the heir apparent. Okay, he's the great continuer of my revolution. Now all of a sudden, God just told me the game is over, and he doesn't ask questions, and he does it. At that point of God tells him, "I got to yadati kirei lokimata," means I realize you're totally in yira. You've totally annulled the self in front of God. This doesn't make sense, but you're willing to do it. That is the ishtachvoya. It's v'kol koimah lefanecha tishtachave. It's very easy to be mishtachve down with your back. That we do on Yom Kippur. It's very nice. Are you an Eved? Are you a real Eved? I've said this a multitude of times. I didn't say a servant. Are you a slave? When we talk of a melech, we don't talk about an employer. We talk about a slave. A slave is Masha Kona Eved Kona Rabbi. He has no sense of self. Even the judicial personality is nothing more than an extension of the alter ego of his owner. That's ishtachvoya. So we say basically, when will we be able to attain the annulment of our sense of independent self of self? And totally see ourselves as nothing more than creations of the infinite God. Only after pachad, ema, then finally we'll get to yira. Ultimately, we will be able to get to ishtachvoya. And then he goes further. V'yasu kulam agudah echat. Once we've attained ishtachvoya, then finally Jews will have one agenda. At the moment, 10 Jews have 10 agendas, and everybody has the shul he goes to and the shul he doesn't go to. And every political party has a moitzes chachme gdoile, I don't know, whatever they're called. Everybody has another das Torah, das Torah, and das Teire. I don't know anymore what God wants. I know there's a lot of all that. And the answer is vashteda, because everybody makes his own agudah. It means to say that all of a sudden we will have one agenda. That our cultural agenda will be one, and that'll be looking up to Kvod Shemayim. There won't be anything else. And whatever will further cover Shemayim is what we're going to do. To do what? La'asos ritzoncha b'leivav shalem. At the moment, we can't get together la'asot ritzoncha b'leivav shalem with total sense of self. We've discussed in the past what these words mean. But we just said something terrible. Jews cannot get together with an agenda of religiosity. Oh, the old tells us achdus, achdus, achdus. How many times have I heard that? You know what I mean? We need achdus. I agree we need achdus. But I daven and Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and I say the truth of the matter is it ain't gonna happen before God puts us to a ringer called pachad and ema and yira, and then ishtachvoya, and then we'll be aguda achas. Beforehand, it's lip service. It's lip service. This is what you say in davening. Goodness sakes, has anybody not thought of this? And you are basically putting yourself. You're saying like, what is this? Does that really have to be this way? Again, this is a tefillah not written by some anonymous medieval scholar. This is Kiyas of the Beirav. It's not Anshik Nesa G'dayla. It is the Deris HaRishonim. We're talking about the base medrash of Rav. No oichete, as we would say, and he was an honorable man. He understood what it meant. He understood the human condition. And this is what Rav told us. We have to pray for this because without it ain't going to happen. No, nobody is right mind. If you thought we can attain Yira and Ishtachvoya and Aguda Achas without the Pachad and the Ema, you'd have to have your mind checked to ask for Pachad and Ema. You're asking literally for a reign of terror. Do you mean it? That's the question. Do you mean it? Do you really want this? You're asking for it. They sing it. I repeat again, they all sing by V'chein Tzadikim. What about V'chein Kavod La'amecha? People love that. Kavod La'amecha. All that. What about V'chein Tein Pachdecha? Ve'ema. This is the issue I want to talk about today. There's also something else. It says, Moshe Adanu Shashoton Lefanecha Ois Biyodcha Ugvura Biminecha. Moshe Adanu sounds awkward. I know you can do this. A little pipsqueak. Does God need you as a cheerleader? Oh, we know you have it in you. What are you doing? You're cheering on God. I said, oh, come on, we know you can be Mechayim Mesim. Will you please do it? I suggest we say, Moshe Adanu. You should take out the Shvuyim out of Gaza. Does anybody say Moshe Adanu anywhere? Yet here it comes to a situation which we need to be able to say Moshe Adanu. What is this tefillah, this bakasha? Need a Moshe Adanu. What does Moshe Adanu mean? Like, I know, it's in my mindset. It's clear as day that this is going to happen, this has to happen, and we know you can engineer it. Why do you have to identify with God's capabilities in this prayer? I don't have a Moshe Adanu, but Rafa'ena Hashem b'nei Rafei. I don't even have a Moshe Adanu, but Re'ena v'anyenu v'riva v'enu golenu gulish, etc. I don't have a Moshe Adanu by Shema Kulenu. I don't even have a Moshe Adanu by a Machazish Chinotzu L'Tzion. Yet when it comes to Ema, Pachad, Yira, ultimately Yishtachvoya, which will lead to Aguda Achas Laser Tzorich of Shalom, I need to bolster this, say this, I'm not this lip service. I really believe this is what you can do and you should be doing it. You have to identify with what you're saying. Shashotan lefanecha, you rule the elements. Ois biyodcha ugvura b'minecha. Now that's also an issue which has to be dealt with. What does gvura b'minecha mean? You have fortitude, strength. You overwhelm things with your right hand. Those who know, we know that the right hand of a person is perceived as the primary act of extroverted expression, creation. The left hand is what we call yad kea, the weaker hand. It's the auxiliary hand. Anybody ever do some boxing? So you jab with your right hand and you protect with your left hand. You throw a shot in basketball, so you know what you're doing. You're angling it, holding it with your left hand, and you're pushing up with your right hand. Unless you're one of these guys that know how to jump into the basket, you just dunk it in. This is the G'dolei Hador. But the regular people, that's not how it works. A pitcher, for goodness sakes, unless he's a softball, what does he do? He's a righty. Okay, so the right hand is the primary tool of expression, and the auxiliary is that. Now we know, therefore, the Zohar HaKadosh writes, Chesed Droya Diyamina. We talk about the right hand of, metaphorically, the right hand of God. The primary expression of God is through his midah of chesed, because chesed means limitless expression of self. That's a translation of the word chesed as found in Moreh Nevuchim, in the last chapter of Moreh Nevuchim. We once mentioned that. Gvura is the idea of restrictions. You're giving a kli. I'm making a vessel. I'm making limitations. The energy is the chesed. The limitations, the form, is the gvura. Constriction, limitations, that's gvura. Now, normally that's supposed to be your auxiliary. Your creativity is found in your energizing, and your auxiliary is found in the forming. So why is it gvura biminecha? You are putting restrictions, limiting, and this is creativity. It should be gvura b'smoilcha. What does it mean when we say gvura biminecha? So this tefillah is really something, and this is a major tefillah. I repeat again, not some kind of a poet from somebody from the Middle Ages. This is Kiyasa de Bei Rav. Rav, just the same Rav which says Hochim Amama Nacha Arav. This is the Rav that says this, and we have to. It's a piece of Gemara. What's the pshat in this tefillah? All these things have to be thought about. Well, I think it all starts with the Perek in Yeshayahu. You have it in front of you in your sources. If you don't, get yourself a Nach Yeshayahu Perek Beis. And I'm going to read Yeshayahu Perek Beis. Hopefully, whoever has it, I really think it's worth getting up and going to the bookshop and getting it, Tanakh. Yeshayahu Perek Beis. Hadavar Asher Chazai Yeshayahu ben Amos HaYudav Yerushalayim. This is the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, on Judah and Judea and Jerusalem. Will come at the end of days. Nachon yeh har Beit Hashem hoveh b'rosh ha'arim. The house of God will be established on the head of the mountains. V'nisam b'givot, will be higher than all the hills. In other words, will have stature. It's a metaphor for stature. V'naru elav kol ha'goyim, and the multitudes of the nations will go there. Amim Rabim, and multitudes of nations will go, Vamru, and they will say, L'chu, come on, move, V'na'alel har Hashem, El Beit Elokei Yaakov, V'yareinu b'drachav. We don't go there for sacrifices. We don't go there. If we go there, we want to learn. V'yareinu b'drachav. We want people will run to God for teachings. V'ne'echo b'arachotav. He will teach us what to do, and we will follow his roads, his paths. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, for it is from the Mikdash the Torah will come forth. That's what we're talking about here. Tzion is the Mikdash. Udvar Hashem Yerushalayim means specifically, it means to say from Har Habayis, from the Mikdash. V'shafat bein hagoyim, people will realize there's nowhere else to go. If we want direction, we go there. V'shafat bein hagoyim, he will judge between the nations. V'ochiach la'amim rabim, and he'll rebuke multitudes of people. They will take their swords and they will melt them down, and they will be shovels or hoes. And their spears, the mazmerot, will use pruning shears. Lo yisa goya goy cherev. The teachings of God will teach the nations not to raise a sword one for the other. There will be no more violence. Wars will cease to exist. There will be actually dialogue, and we'll be able to understand each other. The reason is because we will see the values coming. We will share the values of God. You know, there was a fellow called Zamenhof. There's roots of him all over Israel. Zamenhof understood that the problem of humanity is there's no dialogue. Therefore, we engage in violence. So he figured you'd make what you call an international language called Esperanto. and everybody will speak the same language. Therefore, there will be dialogue, and this will be the League of Nations. This will be great peace. He made a big mistake. It didn't last. It was quite popular for a certain amount of time. Yisrael Zamenhof. Why didn't it last? Because language is a function of culture. You can't just have the same words if you don't mean the same things. And if we don't share the same culture, the fact that we speak the same language is garnish, mit weiter garnish. I live in the land of Israel. We all speak Ivrit, but 10 Jews mean 10 shuls, if you know what I mean, to the extreme. So obviously not a function. When we say over here that they are going to now be able to talk with each other, there will be no more war. It means because they will share one culture. What was the culture? As aforementioned, they will go to Har Hashem, this will inform their language. The values of Tzion, of the Migdash, of Torah, this will inform them, thus there will be no more war. Beis Yaakov L'chuven Elcha Bar Hashem. House of Jacob, come, let us all go, being enlightened by God. Or Hashem doesn't mean by the light, it means we will be enlightened by God. Ki natashta amcha bet Yaakov. And here the Navi says, because God, you had left us. This is talking Galus. Ki mal'u mikedem, they're full of Eastern cultures. Vonanim keplishtim, and they have soothsayers like the Philistines. Ubiyaldei nachrim yashpiku, and they're basically engrossed in foreign children. This is a metaphor for foreign cultures. Look at the Meforshim there. Now he starts describing the situation that we are in today. Vatimale artso kesef azahav. The land of Israel, thank God, is very rich. Ve'in ketzei la'otrosav. There's a lot of startups. Thank God. Okay? Ein ketzei la'otrosav. There's a lot of gashmis. Vatimale artso susim. Excuse me. And his land is full of mobile devices allowing you to move. Equals horses at the time. Today would mean cars or different things like that. It means opulence and affluence. Everybody has a Lexus, a Merc, and a Lamborghini in his garage. Thank God there's a lot of money. We are totally arangeton in Gashmis. And this is what he describes as the Yaldei Nochrim and the Oinanim Kiplishtim. The culture of materialism. And this ain't it's endless the amount of chariots they have. It means there's total opulence. But Timale Arzo Elilim. Now this naturally leads, as the pasuk says, Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivat. When we get a bit fat and we start thinking that everything starts and ends with us, we kick God and we go somewhere else. This is history. Okay? The sorry truth is that the Nisayan of the ghetto was good for religion, and the breaking down the walls of the ghetto, all of a sudden we live in an Baruch Hashem in freedom and affluent society, is terrible for Judaism and for religion. Here, look at us. We're in a situation with over 90% of the Jews in America are not even affiliated with any sense of ethnic identity anymore. We are on the verge of major assimilation. The Nisayan of Oisher is a terrible Nisayan that we are failing. And this is what it said, Vatimale arto elilim l'masei yadav. Naturally, opulence and materialism leads naturally to Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivat. Okay, this is not exactly a speech for the popular shul in New Jersey, but you have to say the truth sometime. Here, in this little corner here, I can still say what I want. And that is what happens. It's full of elilim. They're full of empty-headed, el tifna elilim. The Shabbos, don't waste your time. Shabbos is an istra of doing narishkeit. Just sitting down and reading the paper is like sifta elilim. It's what on the Mishnah Brewer. It's a Gemara on Shabbos. You don't waste your time on Shabbos. Elilim here means that it's full of avodah zorah, l'maitze yodav yishtachavu, which means today we prostrate ourselves to what? to man's activities. We were not a religious society, but what we value are things which have no consistency. What we value are basically what? Ma'aseh Yadav. The only God that we trust is the one printed on a green paper with Ben Franklin's face on it. That's the God, that's the bitachon we want to accumulate. La'asher osu etzvotav, that's what you make with your 10 fingers, that's what you are praying to. Vayishach Adam, but man will his stature will be pushed down, going down. Vayashpil ish, and man will be humiliated. V'al tisalahem, and don't care, just do it. Bo b'tzur, go hide in a stone. V'itamein ba'afar, and hide yourself in some kind of a hole in dust. Mipnei pachad Hashem, because of the fright, the pachad of HaKadosh Baruch Hu mehadar ga'ono. God will reveal himself. And what will happen, there'll be a terrible cultural traumatic apocalypse. All of a sudden, the truth will reign, and we will be frightened like rabbits because this will destroy our comfortable sense of self. It'll destroy all of our materialistic values, and the Navi says that's how it's going to happen. Boi b'tzur v'itamein ba'afar mipnei pachad Hashem umehadar gono. Einei gavut adam shafel. The high-minded eyes of man will all of a sudden become small. The V'sach rum anashim, and all the stature of the great people will all of a sudden be bent down. V'nizgav Hashem levado, only then will God reign supreme by Yoimahu. In other words, here you have the Navi spelling it out the way it is. Humanity as she is on her own will not ultimately give up. She will look for her comfort zone, and she will look to find pleasure. And in a pleasure-seeking society, ultimately, it's going to end up with Merida B'Malchus. And you may go to shul, and you put on even tchelis and tzitzis, but you're serving yourself. You are not prostrating yourself in front of God. You are basically doing a certain religious lifestyle because that's your comfort zone. There's no difference in my eyes between the comfort zone of putting on tefillin and the comfort zone of sitting, I don't know, on the beach in Waikiki with a pina colada and a few people around you, which are lav dafka dressed b'tznius. These are all issues of, there's no hishtachvoya here. There's no mindset that I am a slave and doing God's agenda. You are worshiping literally your comfort zone. It says, when will God reign supreme alone? There will be no other agenda but his. Yes. It's going to take bo b'tzur v'itamein ba'afar mipnei pachad ga'on Hashem. It goes further. Ki yom l'Hashem tzvakot. There's a day, that's the great day of judgment of God, the Lord of hosts. Al kol ge'eh, and all that are haughty. V'ram, all that feel supreme. V'al kol nisa v'shafel. All these great people, v'shafel, and they will all be plowed down. What you're describing as God is literally going to make everybody feel garnished. Because Pachad Gain Hashem, what's going to happen, he's going to blaze the truth in front of you, and you're going to realize that you're a waste of space. You're going to realize it was all a myth. It was all meaningless, and this is really meaningless. What happens at that stage? Before you see You'd Gimel. And all the cedars of Lebanon, all the oaks of Bashan, metaphorically, all the big statures, you know what I mean? What's it called in Dubai? The big buildings. You know, I remember once there was a terrible snowstorm in Manhattan. I was stuck in New York. I was stuck. I couldn't do my interview, so I had a day. I decided to go down to the LIR. Actually, still worked. Would you believe it? I went down to Manhattan. I walked from Rock Center all the way to the tip to Wall Street. There was no one there except for a few Korean tourists. The place was white, actually a white Manhattan, I mean literally white. There was no darkness to it because it was snow. And I was just walking down the avenues. And I looked at the beautiful architecture. Manhattan can be beautiful if you cared to think about it. But it's a temple of man's aspirations and man's design. It's a temple of man. It's a big temple to the God called man. That's what it is. That's what it is. You must really read. It's literally, and Ayn Rand probably loved Manhattan. You know what I mean? Who's John Galt? You know what I mean? Like the idea of, brother, architecture and all that. And that's what he says. All this will collapse. All the boats which bring the great ivory, all the different treasures and things that found, all Tiffany's collection, all that will collapse. And again, the stature of man will fall down. And again, it's a repeated statement. It's a nice way of saying that's what's going to happen, but that's what's going to take. There will be the option of making importance out of naught will cease totally. You know why? Look at the next pasuk. All people will go into the caves that found in the rocks. They will all be tunneling like rabbits in a warren. Because of that pachad of HaKadosh Baruch Hu mi'adar gono, bikumo la'arotz ha'aretz. When he comes to basically put a stop to December, the whole culture of humanity. By Yoimahu, at that point of time when man goes through this terrible trauma, I mean, you're looking at this is Achrus Hayomim. God is telling you the reality is the human condition is that it's not going to work without this. It's Navi. It's the second Perek in Yeshayahu. He says, I'm sorry, guys, you're doing your best, but I don't just think about the few boys in Keren B'Yavne or a few boys I don't know where in Teaneck. I have to think about the whole world and about Klal Yisrael. What's going to happen? I need the world to stop this Narishkeit. So what's he going to do? It's going to be a terrible, traumatic experience. It's going to be a terrible, traumatic experience in which we're going to be hiding like rabbits because we have lost our sense of self. Any iota of stability of the ego will be destroyed. There won't be anything left. It reminds me of Adam Arishon when after he bit into that fruit and he realized that all of a sudden he fell down like eons of levels of consciousness from where he was. He was Einstein, and a minute later he was a Lilliput. He was an ant. What did he do? He hid like a rabbit behind a bush. Simply, he was hiding from himself. He had no sense of confidence. He felt he was decimated himself. Well, God says the only way this world is going to work when I'm going to decimate it. How am I going to decimate it? By just showing myself. Sometimes you could think, okay, so he's the Pied Piper, so why doesn't he just bring out a flute and it's just we'll follow? Because the answer is that didn't work either. God did that in Egypt. He was the Pied Piper. And you know what? We all followed. And what did we do? We made the Negel Azov not long afterwards. You want to decimate it totally? You have to uproot the value system from the shorish. Destroy the word value except for Malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is what he writes. He writes as follows. The pasuk continues. Chof, b'yoymahu, at that day only, Yashlich Adam et ilei kaspo. Man will throw away the gods, the nourishkeit of his money, of his silver, and all that he will destroy. In our terms, it means he will walk away from any sense of materialism and material accumulation. Because what we was doing nothing more than digging holes for bats, equals meaningless activity. Lavo b'nikrat hatzarim. Once again, he's going to repeat it again. Guys, you have nothing left to do but to tunnel into little crevices of the mountains who we've saved slaim. B'pei pachad Hashem me'adagono b'kumo la'arutz haaretz. Chidlu lachem min ha'adam. Stop looking at man-made realities. Asher neshama ba'po. He only has breath in his nose, and that's temporal. Why are you giving out value to man's Why is man's architecture or man's values of accumulation of comfort important? Ki b'amen nechshavu es gornisht. But man will never give that up. Man wants to feel that he is the center of reality, and that's why he will serve not God, but he will serve his comfort zone. I sat down and I asked my students last week, tell me, I want to know each one. You put on tefillin today. Why did you put on tefillin? Why did you put on? And the answer was basically after we whittled down all heaven, I'm afraid of heaven, hell. You're not afraid of hell. If you'd be afraid of hell, you'd be terribly consistent. Hell includes Lashon Hara. Hell includes everything else. You're not afraid of hell. It's not true. Halavai, you should be afraid of hell. You're not afraid of hell. If you'd be afraid of hell, you'd be unbelievably halachically consistent. There wouldn't be a day that you said Kriya Shema Shalei Bismana. You wouldn't mumble a bracha. How is it possible? The answer is you're not afraid of hell. So why are you doing this? Why are the mitzvahs that you're really into and mitzvahs you just don't do? Why are certain societies into, I don't know what, kashrus and taras mashpacha, but they're not too good when it comes to honesty of lesignav and lesigza? Why are other people unbelievably, very beautifully honest when it comes to halachas of tznius, dinei nida, etc.? That's not their forte. Why is it sometimes we have shuls that you go out in the foyer, it looks like a catwalk? Das it sein an Rosh Hashanah. Mit the tekiyas. You have to ask yourself the question, what is the cause? What kind of religion is this? And the answer, it's a man-made religion. We're not serving God. We're not looking for truths. We're following like flock, that which makes us feel comfortable. We literally do flock behavior. We identify ourselves with a flock identity. And therefore, I will do whatever is commonly acceptable in this flock. I will feel good about myself. And that's what I want to do. Well, if you're in a certain society talking during Chazal Shots is part of the mitzvah sayoim, so then gesundter hate, so that's okay. You know what I mean? But you're only going to eat shchit of who knows what, etc. And vice versa, we can go on forever. We are all selectively halachically observant because we never once decide to serve God as for real. We are simply, it's our comfort zone. We're actually using God to make us just feel comfortable. Oh, we need a God. Who else are you going to pray to for the kidnapped in Gaza? Or what are you going to do when you're in Avelis? But are you actually subjugated to a truth? The answer is a flat no. And this is what you're saying is something which is frightening. This pasuk is saying, in the big picture of humanity, it's going to take pachad and ema and total decimation of any sense of self before you finally bow down and recognize everything's garnished. I'm throwing away everything. It's only God. Do you realize that that's what you're praying? This is the makkah of this tefillah of Kiyas the Beirav. This is the Tchein Teim Pachnocha ve'ema v'yishtachvu v'yasu kulam aguda achas lasu v'tzoicha b'lev of Sholem. You are praying for the fulfillment of that Perik and Navi. But what is that saying to you and to me? You know what it's saying? I'll tell you what I feel when I say this. I says, God, it's very nice, this accumulation of these Rosh Hashanahs and Yom Kippurs. And after a while, maybe it stops the inertia of the Avera Guerreris Avera train. After a while, it gets a little slower. You make every accumulation of stops during the year after year. The train starts moving a little slower. Thank God. At least that, okay? But God, is still an issue. And Lashon Hara and Rechilas is an issue, and Bittul Torah is an issue, etc., etc. The issues are endless. You know what you tell God? You say, God, I'm willing to pay the price. If what it takes is to destroy me totally in order to bring me in, open up a new heart, please take out the old one. If taking out the old one means literally I'm going to have to go through a terrible psychological mess, do it. You're offering your pound of flesh to God. You're saying, I am willing to go to this din. Just tell me that at the end it'll work. That's this prayer. I want to go through terror. If terror of me running like a rabbit, and into the mechilot of the afar, is what will it take for me that I'm going to throw away totally the alilim, they will not be anymore. If what it takes is basically I have to be shofel, and all my man-made structures and my comfort zone will basically boom. That's a very hard thing to do. Do you mean it? It takes a lot of guts to say this. It takes a sense of self that you believe at the end there's someone there which will survive. You really have to believe that there's someone there which will survive. And if there's someone there which will survive, then you're willing to say, well, take all the rest of it. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be hard. It's like an unbelievable, it's not going to be a pleasant spa. It's going to be boot camp. It's going to be boot camp, which means to say, brother, in a real, the real old boot camps, yeah, your ego was destroyed. But then you became an efficient soldier. Because your mindset now is you're part of the army. You're not just John Doe, which happens to be in the army. Because the army feeds your ego. Oh, I want to be Rambo. No, brother dear. You are going to be just a little cog. And that's what you are. And that's what's important. And that's what I'm praying. This is a very hard prayer. One has to understand how important this is. Yes, this is literally pachad and ema. I think it's worth thinking about before Rosh Hashanah to see to what extent you can identify with this. To what extent do you have a sense of self which you're happy with? And everybody has something which you know that maybe no one knows, and maybe it's better than no one knows, but you have something which you know you're good with God on that. I know whether because you're a kind person, whether it be a good son, a good mother, whatever you are, good husband. Whether there's some mitzvah that you really you go overboard for, it's actually something that you really, there's something there which is good. We all have something. Well, then I guess the rest you want to get rid of. What do you mean? I go to Daf Yomi. Yeah, because you're part of the group to go to Eli Stefansky or Yisrael Borenstein. You know what I mean? You're part of the group. Called flock behavior. Would you do it if you were on, with Robinson Crusoe on the island? That's the question. To what extent is this consistent? To what extent is this real? And this is a frightening prayer. Yeah. And only then will actually be a sense of awe. Because until we cut away all that ego through the pachad and the ema, you are not actually in awe of God. You respect him because he may be dangerous. You relate to him similar to the Greek gods. They are potent forces that you have to appease them or not, they will bite you up. Are you in awe of God? Awe of God would be totally rescinding the sense of self. And so we say, yes, this prayer won't work unless you identify with it. Kamashia Danu. If you don't identify with this, you want to do lip service, continue doing it and singing the sound of Toike from today to tomorrow. Here we need a Kamashia Danu. Because if you're not telling God, take my pound of flesh if it'll work, cut my hands off, cut my feet off if it works. Fix my heart. To fix my heart and the head, you have to cut my hands and feet off. Cut the hands and feet off. I also want to be like Amnon Mimagenza. If that's what will work, brother, take them. That's what you're saying here. Okay? You're saying I am willing to put myself out there in order to attain a real sense of Eved Hashem. So that's a Gvur B'Minecha. The ultimate building is first by destroying. Soisa Amanas Livnois is a binyan in Shabbos. You're asking God, destroy the external facade to allow the inner kernel, which is true, to flourish and actually be the real thing. And that's what you're praying for. This is a frightening prayer. It really demands thought before. It demands thinking a lot while you're saying it. To what extent do you really identify with this? I'm not going to say, if not, don't say it. I'm afraid, I wouldn't say it if I couldn't identify with it. I'm just telling the honest truth. Okay? It is only then does we covet la'amecha, simcha la'artzecha, all the beautiful things you sing about. It starts with this. So you can really understand the hesitation on the v'chein. V'chein ovei la'melech shalei kedas. That's the v'chein, what the Avudram says. All the three v'cheins, v'chein pacht and pachtocha, v'chein ten kavod, v'chein tzadikim. There's all v'chein ovei la'melech shalei kedas. I'm in a bad place, God. I'm not sure I could be saying this, but I'm going to say it because I really think that way. Yeah, the hesitation is really needed here. If you can't meditate on that v'chein, don't go further. This is what this is really all about. I know and I wish that it's not going to happen that way, but I do believe in Isaiah. Honorable man. Yeah, this is Isaiah. Hey, man. This is the beginning. This is just the beginning of him. It goes down a long way until suddenly he becomes subtle and nice and comforting. But he's like a father, He's going to tell you the way it is. And then he's going to comfort you and he's going to help you grow. It's very similar to what God did to Adam in Eden. Adam lost his senses up, and first he had to tell him, listen, now you're in a bad place. I want you to understand for now A, B, and C. Things are not good. But afterwards, he gave him a sense of self by giving him nice leather clothes, which is Mani Mechabdusa. He gave him new stature and said, I believe in you. Go out to the world and you'll come back one day. So this is the prayer. The prayer is, I also want to hide behind the bush like Adam. But help me hide behind the bush. And this is the story I told you in the past from Tzefan. I heard from Rabbi Khan, story with the younger man with the Balatanya. I'll repeat it again because this is really what this is about. So the younger man came to the Balatanya and he told him, Rebbe, Chatasi, Avisi, Pashati, Asisi, Kach v'Kach. And the Rebbe looks at him and says, yeah, so what else is new? So the kid thinks for 2 minutes, says, the truth of the matter is I don't even care about it. So the Rebbe looks at him and says, yeah, what else is new? He starts thinking, he says, Rebs, I don't even care that I don't care. And he faints because he realized how low he fell. So the Rebbe gets up, hits him on the shoulder, says, Yungemanshik, now at least we know where we're at. It's not you're sinning. It's not that you don't care that you sin. It's you don't care that you can't care. That's what we have to build. At least we found a moment of truth. We don't build fourth floors if we don't have a foundation. And this is what this is really all about. The idea of Rosh Hashanah is to make the foundation of religion. As we discussed what Teshuva is, returning back to an idea of Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shamayim. Anoichi Yudke Vavke Elokecha, Ramban writes in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Mitzvah Aleph, that is the mitzvah of Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shamayim. Sheyeda v'yamin Shu hoive kadmon shu menu akol b'chefze v'yecholtoi v'alkein ro'ui liot elokenu. Read that again. Read the Ramban and Anoichi, because that's the mitzvah sayon. That's the idea of Malchus. Malchus doesn't mean, well, okay, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I'll behave myself. No. Malchus means I have no identity outside of you. Malchus means I'm willing to give my pound of flesh of my ego, of any sense of comfort, for a truth. It's not easy to die on Kiddush Hashem, but it's much harder to live al Kiddush Hashem. What you're saying here, I am willing to take what it takes to live al Kiddush Hashem. Have eksiva v'chsimetayve, and if I be zeicher, someone will daven this with a little more seriousness and me wish to will to want to aspire to mean what he says. Maybe you'll help me go through this day. We should have eksiva v'chsimetayve. Klal Yisrael should have eksiva v'chsimetayve. We should have a sweet year, and mamish we should see b'shuv Hashem as Shivat Tzion. And all the shvuyim and all whoever's there, we should see the simcha of Klal Yisrael. Brother dear, we need it. Agit Yom Tov. Take care.